Hi guys, Hilwa here with Apollo Scooters. Today we're going to show you how to adjust the rear and the front brake of your Apollo Explorer. So we are going to walk you through the step on how to adjust your brake, and we'll go into really deeply how to adjust them. So we're going to start with the rear brake. It's possible when you receive your scooter that it's making the noise of rubbing the brake pad against the disc. So the first step to check the brake of your scooter, you want to raise up the upper part of the stem and you want to unfold both of the handle to remove all the unnecessary tension from the brake handles. So like this, your brake handle are placed like when you'll ride with your scooters. You want to turn on the scooter and make the wheel spin. As you can see, this one is brand new and it's making the rubbing sound. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna slam both of the brake at the same time to try to place the caliper parallel to the disc. Usually just this should fix it. You can slam it 2 or 3 times. As you can see, the sound is already gone. If it's still making noise, you can loosen the screw of the caliper arm with the 5mm X key, just a little bit. So you turn that screw counterclockwise and you just move back a little bit the arm of the caliper. You want to tighten it after that to make it secure, that way. I'm gonna do the same thing to make the wheel spin to check if the sound disappears. In that case, there's no sound, it's perfect. So now I'm gonna check if the braking is tight. It's super loose. That means it's either that the arm lever of the caliper is too far back, or I need to adjust those little adjustment screws on the caliper, and the same one on the handle that I show you on the Apollo Light and the Apollo City adjustment. So I'm gonna start with the brake cable while I'm spinning the wheel. All right, so I'm loosening up that screw, moving up a little bit the arm lever of the caliper, and I can go until that height before it starts rubbing. So I'm gonna tighten it there. Don't forget to tighten it really hard. I'm gonna test again, make the wheel spin, press on the brake handle. It's already way better, but it's still a bit too loose in my opinion. So the next step is to turn this adjustment screw on the caliper counterclockwise. By turning it counterclockwise, it's going to pull on the brake cable right here. So it's going to move up this arm lever a bit more, but more precisely than if you were to undo that screw and just move the arm lever. So I'm just turning it counterclockwise like this. And the reason why I'm applying the throttle at the same time, it's to hear the brake pad rubbing against the disc. Like this, I'll know when I'm going too far. So now basically I can go almost fully. And an important thing to note is that you don't want to go further than this, because after that, this adjustment screw might just fall out and it's gonna be dangerous. So just watch out for those threads right here. You have to stop right here. You cannot go further. So now I'm gonna test the same way, making the wheel spin, pressing the brake. Way better, way better. The next step is gonna be on the brake handle. I'm gonna show you that a bit later. If after all of this, your brake is still making noise and it still feels quite loose, you need to remove the fender to adjust the caliper and make it parallel to the disc. So to remove the fender, there's 4 screws. So there's 1 located on each side and there's 2 located in the front. You can use a star screwdriver. You don't really need to remove the whole fender, but it's going to be way easier if you do it, and it's going to take you less time. So I prefer to remove it, and it's going to be easier to show you on the video how to adjust the brake. So when all the 4 screws are removed, you should now be able to just remove the mud guard like this, and you'll see you'll have a way better access to the caliper and the disc itself. So now I just removed the rear fender, so I'll have a better access to the rear caliper. Basically, you want to use your 5mm X key and lose the 2 screws on each side of the caliper. This is going to allow you to move the caliper sideways and make it really parallel to the disc. So I'm just going to lose those 2 screws just a little bit to free the caliper. As you can see, it's already moving and this is perfect. So as you can see, if it was not parallel, it would make that sound. And by just moving the caliper a little bit, the sound stopped. Because as you can see, the disc is passing inside those brake pad really straight, parallel. It's beautiful. If the same thing, if you go too far that way, it's gonna rub against it. I'm spinning the rear wheel at the same time that I'm tightening those screws to make sure the caliper is not moving while I tighten those screws. You need to make them really tight because if it's loose, the first time you're gonna brake with the brake handle, the caliper is gonna move sideways and you have to redo the whole thing. So that's it. Now it should be completely silent. Beautiful. So now I'm gonna put back the mud guard on the rear wheel. It's the same thing. You just put it back in place and you put back the 4 screw inside the dedicated hole for this. Make sure to tighten those screws fairly tight because this mud guard can be a bit tricky, can rattle against your rear wheel. So the tighter the screw, the tighter will be the mud guard. So now that we adjusted the rear brake, we're gonna switch to the front brake. It's actually easier to adjust and it's basically the same principle. You need the caliper to be parallel to the disc, but you'll see you don't have to remove any fender for this one since you'll have a better access to the lateral screw of the calipers. So the brakes are not really tight. As you can see, I'm able to spin the wheel while I'm pressing the brake. So that's not good enough for us. The first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna turn this to show you. I'm gonna use the 5mm X key and turn the screw that is holding the brake cable in place counterclockwise to loosen up a little bit. And basically I'm gonna hold the brake cable with my finger and I'm gonna try to lift up the arm lever of the caliper up on the brake cable like this, just a little bit. I've got to tighten back that screw. I'm gonna try again the brake. Oh, it's already much better, but still not perfect. So basically what we just did is just move up the arm lever of the caliper up on the brake cable. That means the brake pad are getting closer to the disc and you are getting a better braking. So it's not rubbing. When I brake, it's better, but still I think we can add a little bit more tension to the brake pad. So the next step, I'm spinning the wheel with my hand to make sure the brake pad are not rubbing when I'm adjusting. And I'm gonna turn that adjustment screw counterclockwise. To help you turn it, because it can be a little bit hard, you can pull up that brake cable to remove the tension from the screw, as you can see right here. So I'm just turning it counterclockwise, like this. Again, you don't want to turn it too much because it can go out of the caliper itself and it's just dangerous when it's doing that. So make sure like this is about right, a little bit of thread under it. Once this screw is undone, you want to turn this one clockwise to secure everything in place, like this. That way you are making sure that when you roll with the vibration and everything, it's not going to be undone, your adjustment. So just make sure everything is tight. Now I'm turning the wheel, it's not rubbing, it's good. I'm gonna test the brake handle. It's much better. So this should be perfect for me, but I'm still gonna try to adjust it from the brake handle to really get the best braking possible out of the scooter. If you did all of those steps and you still feel the brake handle is loose and like you've pushed back the brake cable and everything, you can hear the brake pad rubbing against the disc, but it still feels loose, that means that your rear brake pad need to be pushed in a little bit. Basically, to adjust your brake pad, the rear one, you just need to find this adjustment screw through the front rim, right here. And you just need to use the same Allen key, it's the 5mm one. You just put it there and you need to turn clockwise. You just want to turn a little bit because those adjustment screws are really sensible and it should be good. And if you look at the caliper itself, you'll be able to see the rear brake pad going in a little bit more. So now I turn it a little bit. I'm gonna try to brake. That is perfect. So if after that you still hear the rubbing noise against the disc, that means your caliper is not perfectly parallel to your disc. So I'm going to show you which screw you need to loosen to be able to move it a bit more parallel to the disc and make everything straight. Well, it's really simple. It's only those 2 screws right there. You need to use again your 5mm X key and you just loosen them a little bit. You don't need to remove those screws at all. Like you can see, I'm just doing like a quarter of a turn and this should be enough. It's just to free the tension and be able to slide it a little bit. So I'm gonna lose this one a little bit more because it's not moving. All right, so now I should be able to move it. As you can see, it's a bit loose. So now I'm spinning the wheel to try to find the perfect way to put the caliper to make it really parallel. If I had the tricks to give you, it's probably to tight the upper one first, a little bit more. Like that, it's going to position the caliper a bit straighter, and it's going to be easier to adjust since you don't just have to play with the bottom one. And you'll see you don't have a lot of place to like pull with your finger and everything. You can just use this arm lever right here. And as you can see, it's way easier. So now it's already better, but I know that it's rubbing on the top one. So I'm gonna tighten the bottom one like this. I'm gonna loosen the top one a little bit. I'm gonna move it from left to right like this. As you can see, the sound disappears. And you'll see it's really, really precise because if I just move it a little bit, it's making the noise. As you can hear, I'm just gonna push it a little bit. The sound goes away. So it's really precise, and that's why the braking is so good when they are well adjusted. After that, you need to tighten those two screws really hard because it's gonna move right away when you'll brake. Again, spin the wheel. Like that, you'll hear if the caliper is moving while you are tightening those screws. Like this, I'm sure my adjustment is still great. Now I'm gonna try to brake to see if the adjustment is good. It's perfect. The braking is strong. It's not making any noise. So now I'm going to show you the adjustment screw on the brake handle that I mentioned earlier. It's those little screws right here. So as you can see, there's still a bit of play in the brake handle. It's almost reaching the handle itself. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna turn this adjustment screw counterclockwise, like this. And again, it's really important that you secure your adjustment with this little screw right here. So this one, you need to turn it clockwise until it reaches the brake handle itself. And you need to tighten everything like this. Now I'm gonna test the brake handle. It's much tighter. As you can see, there's less play in it, and the brake also feel way better. You can do it, this is the rear brake, you can do the same thing for the front brake. I suggest you spin the front wheel at the same time to hear if the brake pads start rubbing against the disc, because keep in mind, every time you're playing with this, it's adding a tension on the brake cable, and it's possible that it will start again to rub against the disc. If you have any question or comment on which video you'll like to see, or if you have any suggestion on how to adjust your brake yourself, maybe you have other tricks, you can leave them down below in the comment section.